Tonight on the Black Channel, you are witnessing the end of MAGA as you knew it. No one else is saying this, and the folks who do say it don't have any credibility to say so, but you are hearing it here from the anchorman of the new black media. This is the end of MAGA as you knew it. This is the end of Donald Trump's autocracy. This is the end of it. From here on in, it will be safe to challenge him. It will be safe to dispute him. And something that didn't exist before, it will be safe to outright oppose him. Because you can get people to accept a lie. You can get them to accept a blatant falsehood. But just like the movie The Matrix, it works, but only if they desire to believe it on some level. Folk will go along with the lie if they desire to believe it. There has to be something in there that they want to believe. And Jeffrey Epstein and the oligarchs of perversion, this is all perfectly fine for them. But for the rank and file citizen, it is not. They were already on tenuous ground to begin with, and now, in their desperation to escape consequences, they've done something so blatant, so beyond the pale, that now it's become undeniable. And that's the issue. I want to read to you here from the New York Times. The New York Times just did an article about this by David French. It says, last week, President Trump's Department of Justice delivered a blow to one of the foundational beliefs of the MAGA movement, one that helped carry him back to the White House. In an unsigned memorandum, because we all know that if you don't sign your memorandums, you have total faith in it. In an unsigned memorandum, the department declared that there was no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced, deceased, convicted sexual predator, maintained a list or that he blackmailed prominent individuals for various misdeeds. So as I told you all last night, and as I said to you previously, they didn't just say that there was no list. They're saying that there were no clients. That's what they're effectively telling you here. Now, he didn't have a list. There was no list. And there were no blackmailed people. The memorandum also declared that Epstein committed suicide. So this right here, you have to understand that this is a test of faith for the MAGA faithful to see just how infallible you see your leader. This is a test. This is a loyalty test. And it's one thing when you're testing the loyalty of some very privileged individuals in your cabinet. It's another thing when you're asking the whole rest of the society to go along with you. So that's where they jumped the shark. They go on to say here that most Americans saw this news, if they saw it all. So this lets you know the New York Times is in the same boat. The New York Times wants everyone to ignore this also. Do not forget or dismiss this. Your corporate media outlets, New York Times, CNN, Los Angeles Times, all the rest of them, they are devotees of Epstein Island also. I call tonight's program the United States of Epstein because all your major media outlets, they were all doing the same exact thing. None of them are saying any differently. Please understand that. None of them are saying that there is a client list. None of them are saying it either. They're all saying, oh, look at MAGA is upset because some of them say there's a client list. But you notice the New York Times and all these people who have supposedly limitless investigative resources, and none of them are saying that there is a client list either. As a matter of fact, they're all telling you that's a conspiracy theory. So what do you know? We found the one thing that the New York Times and Donald Trump absolutely agree on. So that tells you who actually controls both. It says most Americans saw this news, if they saw it at all, and barely raised an eyebrow. The Epstein story was part of the past. He died in 2019. but it detonated like a bomb in the MAGA universe.
What?
So, folks, this is the New York Times telling you, well, yeah, nobody cares about Epstein. This is the New York Times saying it. The New York Times saying no one cared about Epstein. Why, everyone had forgotten about that. Why, he died in 2019. Wasn't nobody talking about no Jeffrey Epstein. Ain't no Epstein IBs. Ain't no MIBs. It says pro-Trump influencers with vast audiences couldn't believe what they were reading. After all, they'd been told for years that there was an Epstein client list. Pam Bondi, Trump's attorney general, told Fox News in February that the client list was, quote, sitting on my desk right now to review. She later claimed she was referring to the Epstein case file, not the specific client list. This is the New York Times, people. This is the New York Times telling you ain't no MIBs, that there is no Epstein list. This is the New York Times saying it, not some other outlet, not Jeffrey Epstein's publicist, not the articles of Zion. No, this is the New York Times telling you, yeah, man, ain't no Epstein list. Ain't no Epstein list. What y'all talking about? Trump is right. Trump is telling you the truth. There is no Epstein list. Just a bunch of wacky conspiratorial people out there who just believe that there was one. It says, after all, they've been told for years that there was an Epstein client list. In October 2024, J.D. Vance, then a candidate for vice president, said, quote, seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. This is an important thing. Before he was Trump's director of the FBI, Kash Patel told Glenn Beck, a right-wing radio host, that the FBI had Epstein's, quote, black book, and that it was, quote, under direct control of the director of the FBI. In 2023, Patel told Benny Johnson, a MAGA podcaster, that members of Congress should, quote, put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are. I think we already know you may be working for one of them right now, Mr. Patel. Your boss, the president, may be one of them. In September 2024, Dan Bongino, now the deputy director of the FBI, told his listeners, quote, folks, the Epstein client list is a huge deal that would, quote, rock the Democrat Party. Now it's rocking the Republican Party. Oh, well. Those quotations are a small fraction of the right-wing discourse about Epstein. During the Trump era, references to Epstein have been ubiquitous in MAGA circles, and the statement Epstein didn't kill himself was so popular that it leaked into the wider American culture. Folks, this is the New York Times telling you that Jeffrey Epstein's story was leaked into the American popular consciousness. Not that this is something that everybody's been watching. This is the New York Times telling you all why you didn't care about any of this. None of you cared about any of this. This is the New York Times now. This is the New York Times front and center in front of everybody saying, yeah, you all never cared about any of this. Why, it was just some fringe people on the internet that just kept repeating it over and over, like Adolf Hitler in The Big Lie. Just repeated it over and over until you all started picking up on it. Okay, I thought we didn't care about it. Which one is it? Because they started off the story talking about nobody cared about it until a week ago. Now they're saying, oh, wait a minute, this leaked into the wider American culture. So the New York Times has, this isn't lying anymore. This is just straight out propagandistic brainwashing. A pathetic attempt at it. This isn't even a good attempt. Folks, this isn't even good propaganda. This is sloppy, awful propaganda. Somebody's 3-year-old was sitting on Grok or Chat GPT and said, hey, give me a cover story to cover up the Epstein suicide/murder /client list. And this is what it spat back out. A 3-year-old came up with this. He says the Epstein story mattered so much in MAGA circles. So this was just a MAGA. So what they're trying to make you think is that if you care about the Epstein story, you're MAGA. Why, only those MAGA people care about that. Ooh, who are you talking about? You must be MAGA. You care about that Epstein list? You must be MAGA. See how that's going? That's the message of the day. The Epstein story mattered so much in MAGA circles because it was a key element in their indictment of America's so-called ruling class. So-called ruling class. People, these are the words of the New York Times. So-called ruling class. The so-called ruling class. But then again, the New York Times is owned by billionaires. So what do you know? The billionaires are telling you that if you believe in the Epstein list, you're MAGA. And if you believe in that there's a ruling class, then you're a Trump supporter. Don't you see who the real enemies are? Trump's appeal to the Republican base isn't just rooted in his supporters' extraordinary affection for the man. It's also rooted in their almost indescribably dark view of the American government. So the New York Times is going to the next step and telling you that the American government is great. All that COINTELPRO surveillance police state stuff. Why, what the hell you talking about? Ain't no MIBs. The problem is you. The problem is you. They go on to say here, why are they so keen to burn it all down? Aren't the Democrats on the Capitol Hill steps talking about burning everything down? Well, if you believe your government is populated by people so depraved that they'd participate in and cover up the systemic sexual abuse of children, then you wouldn't just want them out of office. You'd want them prosecuted, imprisoned, maybe even executed. Actually, that's a pretty good idea. And you'd want all the power you need to make that happen. And if you believe that the ruling elites would abuse children, then they'd certainly be the kind of people who gin up a Russian hoax or try to steal an election in 2020. People who are that terrible are capable of anything. And if you wonder why MAGA turned on the FBI and the Department of Justice, well, it's not just about the Russia investigation or the FBI search of Trump's home in Mar-a-Lago. MAGA America also believed the FBI was protecting pedophiles to preserve the status quo. Now, I want you all to understand what you're seeing the New York Times do here, stating it like that. This is classic Goebbels mixed with Freud, mixed with a little bit of Mao Tse-tung in there. What they're doing is they're openly articulating that which you're thinking. The goal here is to first acknowledge what it is you're thinking. That's the first thing that this guy did in this article. That's the first thing the New York Times does. They openly acknowledge what it is you're thinking. Why, they say it exactly the way you're thinking, and then they go steer it off in another direction and say, well, this is how that rationale plays out, when in reality it isn't. But the first thing they do is say, well, no, I'm not ignoring. I hear exactly what you're saying. Okay, so this is what you think. You think that the government is populated by people so depraved that they would cover up the systemic sexual abuse of children. Why, of course, you wouldn't just want them out of office. What, you'd want them prosecuted, imprisoned, maybe even executed. So they acknowledge what you're thinking and feeling and then tell you, but you know you're wrong for that, right? I mean, yeah, I hear you, but you're wrong for that. They go on to say, on the right, the Epstein story became the thinking man's version of the QAnon conspiracy theory. The idea that American society was led by a gang of cannibalistic pedophiles, whereas QAnon was rooted in the imaginary revelations of a shadowy figure who claimed Q security clearance. At least the Epstein story was rooted in some very grim, very real facts. So once again, they're acknowledging that there's a reality, but then telling you the reality is not as deep as you think it is. And all those facts you saw, well, they don't really mean as much as you think they do. He goes on to say Epstein was a monstrous and grotesque sexual predator. Along with his convicted Confederate Ghislaine Maxwell, he systematically groomed and sexually abused and enabled the sexual abuse of hundreds and hundreds of young women and girls. Okay, first of all, if there were hundreds and hundreds of them, that means he wasn't by himself. We know that he was giving them to other people. The New York Times, amazingly enough, is expressing no interest in investigating who the other people are. They're just telling you all, well, Epstein is dead, case closed. Move on and go watch another season of Survivor or something. So they're acknowledging the reality. They're acknowledging there's hundreds and hundreds of young women, really thousands, but telling you that there is no client list. When we know he was bringing those hundreds of hundreds there for other people. And the New York Times expresses no desire to talk about the other people. Nor do they say we need to get down to the bottom of it. Isn't that interesting? They go on to say that he was one of the most well-connected people in the world. A host of powerful people attended his parties and rode on his jet. Well, okay, once again, you see they're trying to get ahead of you because you're like, wait a minute, what about all those people he picked up? So they're immediately acknowledging all these facts, but then they're going to tell you that those facts don't mean anything. He goes on to say, oddly enough, considering MAGA's obsession with Epstein, one of his most powerful friends was Trump. They flew together, they partied together, and in 2002, Trump told the New York Magazine, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. But Trump also made the ominous observation, it's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. After Maxwell's arrest, Trump said, I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. This was the man that MAGA trusted to fully expose Epstein and all his misdeeds? Well, yeah, because the New York Times, of course, was on the cutting edge of investigating it. Make no mistake, MAGA is very angry. After the Department of Justice released its memo, MAGA influencers exploded. Tucker Carlson was furious. Quote, the whole thing that this tape shows that he didn't kill himself is like a joke. But worse than that, it's a joke that we all get, he said. I feel like we're at a dangerous point now. Alex Jones said the Trump administration was now, quote, part of the cover-up. On X, Marjorie Taylor Greene wrote, release the Epstein client list. This moment is significant for another reason. It allows us to peer into the future of MAGA and see its potential crack up. After Trump is gone, this movement could tear itself apart. Its very existence is premised on a series of fantastical assertions about America and American government. This means that MAGA influencers are constantly deceiving themselves, one another, and the right-wing public. It's an ecosystem that operates in a constant state of crisis and grievance, and MAGA supporters are so convinced that the worst possible stories are real that they'll turn on anyone not named Donald Trump who dares to tell them the truth or who deviates in the slightest bit from the stories they tell themselves. So this is the New York Times telling you, ain't no list, weren't no clients. Yeah, okay, so there were hundreds of young girls brought out, but there weren't any other. Well, there were people who were brought to his island and a bunch of young girls brought to his island. So the same island, they brought people to the island. They brought a lot of hundreds of girls to the island and brought hundreds of grown men to the island. But never did any of these grown men have any sort of relations with the young girls over the course of years. And if you think that those two facts together, well, there were a bunch of men being brought. Epstein brought a bunch of men to the island, yeah, and a bunch of young girls to the same island, yeah, and we know they were all interacting and associating with each other, yeah. You call that evidence? Well, we're saying, why don't we go ahead and investigate it and look into it? And Mr. French here in the New York Times is saying, nothing to see here. Says that once Trump leaves office, there will be no one left to end the internal arguments and direct everyone to fall in line. If the Democrats have a problem or too many purity tests, Republicans will soon experience the consequences of putting together a coalition that may have too few. In Red America, you can believe anything so long as you believe Trump. Remove that man, and only the grievances remain. and many of MAGA's grievances are against other Republicans. The GOP coalition contains pro-vaccine and anti-vaccine factions, internationalists and isolationists, normie Republicans, and wild conspiracy theorists. Republican ideological diversity is its temporary strength. It could build a tent big enough to win very close to a majority of the popular vote, but by pulling a critical mass of disgruntled Americans into one party, Republicans have created a culture of constant conflict, and those conflicts are often rooted in completely false beliefs about American life. So, folks, the Epstein list is just a false belief. It's not a fact, it's just a belief. Those internal conflicts are fully underway. CNN's Caitlin Collins reported on Friday that, quote, it's hard to overstate the infighting in MAGA over the Epstein case. Also on Friday, Axios reported that Bongino took the day off work after clashing with Bondi at the White House, and CNN is reporting that he's considering resigning from the FBI. In fact, we can see a consensus hardening against Bondi. Quote, she's the culprit. She's the one who pulled the bait and switch. She told us the list was on her desk. Trump himself isn't immune from attack. As part of his divorce from the MAGA movement, Elon Musk has claimed that Trump and his longtime ally Steve Bannon are in the Epstein files. Quote, how can people be expected to have faith in Trump if he won't release the Epstein files, Musk said on Tuesday. By Saturday morning, Trump had enough. He posted a long screed on Truth Social that declared his support for Bondi. He said she was doing a, quote, fantastic job, and then bizarrely claimed that the Epstein files were written by, quote, Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration. In a pointed reference to Patel, he said that the FBI should be focused on investigating, quote, voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election of 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals, rather than spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radical left-inspired documents of Jeffrey Epstein. What? And in case you all were wondering whether or not the very dishonest writer in the New York Times was making that up, No, as a matter of fact, they're not. As a matter of fact, they're not. Here's what Trump put up on Truth Social. He said, what's going on with my boys and in some case gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration.
Nigga, what?
This is what happens when narcissism and conceit aren't allowed any objectivity in the room ever. You say absolutely ridiculous things like this. Of course, this guy's not just a cartoon character, he's a buffoon, but in any case, we have a perfect administration.
Oh, please.
The talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it, all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein, over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more? Did you all ever think you'd see the day that the New York Times would be defending Donald J. Trump? Did you ever think that you would see that day come to being? That the New York Times is not disputing Trump. The New York Times is like, yeah, of course Trump is right. Absolutely, he's right. Can't you all tell? He's right. Did you ever think you'd live long enough to see that? Who really runs these people? Who really controls this thing? Because when you see folks who are supposedly so divergent converge like this, you have to ask, okay, who's behind the scenes really pulling the strings? Who really controls the agenda? They created the Epstein files.
What? Damn! What?
Oh, you heard that right. He is now telling you that they created the Epstein files. That Obama and Hillary and whoever, that they created the Epstein files. Just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me, and now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? Because all your names are on it, Donnie. None of you are going to release the files because all your names are on it. And if you all don't stick together, then you will all hang separately.
And deal with it.
On this issue, you are all in the same boat. So you see, this is a weapon that no one is going to use because everybody is in there. And this is why you have to do something so outrageously blatant, like lie to the world about, oh, ain't no files, because you're all in it. That's why. So none of you can release it because all of you are in it. Going back not years, but decades. And by the way, you crack open the Epstein files, then you start cracking open a whole list of other things. The Epstein files would not be the end of people's questions. The Epstein files would only be the beginning. He goes on to say here, if there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? Because it would have hurt them too. So stop talking stupid, which is very, very hard for Trump to do. He would just have to be quiet. But then again, that's a guy who could be the dumbest person in the room without saying a word. They haven't even given up on the JFK or Martin Luther King Jr. files. Did you get that? Did you get that? They haven't even given up on the JFK and Martin Luther King Jr. files, probably because you haven't released any of them. So he's sitting here telling you all, thanks for putting me in the White House. By the way, stop asking about all these files. There's no reason to release them, to release any of them. So he didn't just stop at Epstein, is what I'm telling y'all. Hey, Tucker the Butthead Carlson, you told everybody to support Trump because it would be fighting the deep state. Hey, guess what, stupid? He is the deep state. Damn! Hey, Tucker the sucker. Trump is not fighting the deep state. He's not an enemy of the deep state, dumbass. He is the deep state. As the old saying goes, dressed and disguised as opposition. Now he's in charge and he's here to tell the rest of you ain't no JFK files. Stop asking about that. Ain't no MLK files. Stop asking about that. And ain't no Epstein files. So in other words, everything that the government has been saying all along, Trump got on Truth Social and said that he is rubber stamping it. That everything that you all have heard for the last 6 decades, all of that's legit, including denying you opening the files, denying transparency. All that's legit. All of that is legit. Now stop asking about this stupid stuff, because all of it is legit. Every bit of it. And the only people sitting up here making more problems is you. With all that stuff you heard and everything you've seen before now, it's all correct. There is no reason whatsoever to keep arguing about this because it is all correct. And that's it right there. So just stop your stupidity. the JFK, ain't no conspiracy, ain't no problems there. It's none of that. None of that. None of that at all. So stop making a mess of yourselves. And don't forget to vote for him. Don't forget to vote for them. Because that's the most important thing you could do. I spent a very long time trying to tell people here and trying to explain to them that these things are not as serious to you as you tell yourself that it is. It is not as serious to them as you tell yourself it is. It is not. It's football. It's football. For these people, it's all football. That's what it is. Now, and in football, sometimes you got somebody, he's a heavy hitter, plays a little rough sometimes, You got that dude. And that's what it is. Trump is one of those bruisers. He's one of those goons, Sometimes he hits people a little rough, He's one of those guys. Obama is more of a smooth operator. He doesn't really go slamming into people like that, except when he needs to. So they got you thinking, oh, this is overboard and over the line, and that's not what it is at all. They operate in this world. They operate in this environment. This is where they live. And their job is to get you to be emotionally invested in it so that you'll back them no matter what. And the job is to make sure you don't get actually objective. Because if you do, oh man, if you do. So we need you to treat this like a football game, like football teams. You're very rabid fans. You're very passionate. You all are out there shooting each other in the streets. Your favorite NFL players have never sat up here and bust each other upside the head and got into a fight in the parking lot. They don't do that. They don't do that, and they've never done that. Never. Their job is to get everybody else to be super invested in it. That's their job. That's their goal. Get everybody else super invested in it, and you go along with that. And then they sit back and soak up the benefits and soak up the rewards after they've gotten you properly agitated. But when you really sit back and take a look at things, you realize that, by the way, they're on the same side. They're on the same side. Their job is to make you think there are two sides, which I've always tried to put the smack down on anybody who tries to act like there's two separate sides of it. They're just varying flavors of sliced turkey. That's all it is. But at the end of the day, they're still turkey. Some of them is smoked, some of it is honey glazed. And it's just varying shades of the same sliced turkey. That's the only thing on the menu. That's it. That's the only thing on the menu. They're just here to try to deceive you into thinking that there might be something else on the menu. No, there's not. And furthermore, there never was. Let me give you all a reminder. I want to give you a reminder right quick, and there's a reason why I post the things that I do and post them how I do them, so we can come back and have a retrospective. Take a look on your screens. Take a look on your screens. I took notice of this from day one. I took notice of this from day one, immediately after the election. Immediately after the election, I showed this picture from day one. This is them, November 13th. There it is. And I said back then, this picture says it all. This picture says it all. That's it. The only folks who don't understand that's you. This picture right here tells you everything you need to know. With the exception of the border, tell me one policy that Biden had that Trump is really sitting up here dismantling. This is what it is right here. And everyone who is living under illusions or delusions, well, the wake-up call is brutal. Brutal and unforgiving. Trump went on to say here, no matter how much success we have had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, you've done maybe half of one of those things. Energy dominance.
Nigga, please.
A safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons. Nigga, please. It's never enough for some people. We are about to achieve more in 6 months than any other administration has achieved in over 100. All right. In over 100 years. Just nobody told this jackass that he's overselling the bull crap. You're overselling the bull crap, dude. This doesn't work here. You're overselling the bull crap. You're overselling it. When you have to go this far with it, dude, you're overselling it. Something that's true doesn't need this much embellishment. It doesn't need this much bull crap piled on top of it. Something that is true is self-evident. When you got to do all this right here, and please remember, these are your so-called friends you're talking to now. These are your so-called friends you're talking to. This is hella disrespectful. It says, we are saving our country and making America great again, which will continue to be our complete priority. The left is imploding. Really? Kash Patel and the FBI must be focused on investigating voter fraud, political corruption, Act Blue, the rigged and stolen election in 2020, and arresting thugs and criminals instead of spending month after month looking at nothing but the same old radical left-inspired documents on Jeffrey Epstein. Let Pam Bondi do her job. She's great. The 2020 election was rigged and stolen, and they tried to do the same thing in 2024. That's what she is looking into as AG. By the way, what did she find there, Slappy? By the way, Trump the dunce. By the way, what did she found there? Did she find anything that Biden didn't find? By the way, if that's a true statement, dummy, by the way, what did she find then? Because there's nobody in your way now, so yeah, they're looking into the 2020 election. Great. And what did you find? If there's something there, surely you can show us what it is by now, right? So 1 minute, everything the government says is correct, and the next minute, we need to go back and look at 2020, right? Dude, everybody's thinking about Jeffrey Epstein. What they're not thinking about is the election of 2020. Nobody's thinking about the election of 2020. To bring that up is an insult to people's intellect. No one's thinking about the election of 2020. And he wants to talk about the election of 2020. When you go this far to try to change the subject off of Jeffrey Epstein, what you're creating, Donald the Dunce, is the Streisand effect. When you are this blatant at telling people don't look at something, all you're doing is encouraging them to look at it even more. When you tell people that what they see in front of their faces isn't really real, all you're really doing is getting them to investigate more what they see in front of them. So you're not diffusing people's curiosity, buddy, you are inflaming it to nuclear proportions. Anybody who told you that these people were geniuses or master manipulators lied to you. He's not even smart enough to just be quiet. He's saying this and then telling all you, look here, don't worry. He told his masters back, don't worry, I'll talk them out of this. I'll talk them down. And this was the master stroke of convincing that he came up with. It says 1 year ago, our country was dead. Now it's the hottest country anywhere in the world. Okay. Let's keep it that way and not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, some of you may be saying, Jason, how could he be so clueless? How could he be so dumb? How can you say something so outrageous and think that that's going to fly? I need you to understand something. The so-called powerful in the system of white supremacy, they don't get it. They don't see it. They're like thieves who keep going back and robbing the same store. They don't think that they're lucky. They think they're smart. Hell, they think they're brilliant. They think they're geniuses. They don't think that they were lucky. They think that they're brilliant. They don't realize that, man, you were just lucky as hell. And then they tell themselves, well, don't worry, if I speak to them, I am so smart and so genius that they will go for whatever I tell them. That's what they're saying to themselves. That's what they say to themselves. They tell themselves that they are so smart and so wonderful and so beloved that the unwashed, stupid masses will just go along with whatever they say. That's what they really believe. And you have to understand that, it goes on both sides. It goes on both sides there. Because remember, Obama was the same way, remember? Obama talked to us crazy the same way, remember? Remember, Obama was telling us when y'all niggas crazy, ain't no problem over there. Telling you that you need to stop being concerned about that which you're concerned about. You need to talk about what they want you to talk about. We already been through that. Don't you realize this violates Politics 101? This violates Politics 101. Your voter base is telling you that this is something that they're concerned about. And rather than the politician coming forward and saying, let me address what you're concerned about, he's coming to you and telling you, y'all need to stop being concerned about that. All the folks who thought that Trump was anti-establishment, and what they found out is he's the establishment on steroids. He's the establishment on rocket fuel. And you thought that you were getting away from the Republican plantation. And then you find out you're right back on it and shackled down more than any other. That's what in the world you found out there. You know what? That's a very good question. I'm very glad to hear that. In the chat room there, Ike. So glad that Ike has a question here for us tonight. So let me go ahead and put the Zoom link up here, so that he can go ahead and call me up directly, and we'll be glad to discuss that with you. So glad that you've done that there, sir. So here's the link to the Zoom. You don't have to sit there in the chat room for it there. You can go ahead and hit me up directly, and we'll be glad to go ahead and discuss that. We'll be glad to go ahead and discuss that. When you see things like this occur, when you see things like this happen, when you see things like this happening so blatantly, what it does is it reinforces something, and Tucker Carlson was correct about that. Yes, you are in a frightening time, but then again, this is frightening to white society. It's not frightening to us. You see, we live here. We live in the world of fake news. We live in the world of phony headlines. We live in the world of censored information. We live in the world of propagandistic fiction being told that it's the news. We live here. We have spent centuries being told that atrocities that happened to us didn't actually occur, never happened. As a matter of fact, never even gets mentioned in the news. No one prints a story about it. When you go up to them with stacks of papers showing what the information is, the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Times, nobody saw anything. No one says a word about it. So you see, for all these other folks, this is frightening. This is terrifying because this is new. They've never had to live like this before. They never sat up here and saw the reality sitting right in front of their face, and to have their so-called elected leaders, having their so-called elected leaders tell them, yeah, ain't nothing we can do for you. Ain't nothing we can do for you. We can't really do nothing for you. Telling you that that didn't actually happen. The folks that you voted for, the people that you voted for, the people that you chose, the people that you elected, the people that you put to the front, these are the ones telling you this isn't even happening. As a matter of fact, you need to shut up about it.
What?
Not only are they saying that this is not real, they're even saying that you should shut up. You need to quit talking about this. The things that you think are important, that ain't important. You need to focus on what I tell you is important. That's the important thing, not whatever the hell you trying to talk about. So he's not out of line for ignoring your concerns. You're out of line for having any concerns. That's the real problem there. The real problem is that you don't understand that you're out of line for not recognizing that you're out of line. And that whatever it is you're concerned about, the real issue is that you don't realize that it ain't worth talking about. So stop being concerned about what you're saying, and you need to just focus on whatever we tell you. Oh, this is a whole new world of frightening for them. This is a whole new world of frightening for them folks. They're being told directly to their faces, whatever you talking about, whatever you thinking, that doesn't matter. Now, they're used to us getting treated like that. That's what they're folks, what I want to tell you right here is that I'm going to go ahead and probably change tonight's title of tonight's program. I might change the title of tonight's program to say MAGA and White America learns I'm white and I say so.
And deal with it, nigga.
MAGA and White America find out what I'm white and I say so means. Now that the whitest white man on the planet is in charge, now that he's sitting in the driver's seat and all of y'all are sitting up there saying, oh, he's just like us, and he's sitting here telling you ain't no Epstein files. You like, what? Wait a minute, all these stacks, all these lists, all these girls, ain't no Epstein files. Y'all need to quit talking about that. Quit talking about it. Yeah, we got bigger fish to fry. Bigger fish? We got more important. But I brought this to you. You ain't going to deal with this? Nope. Now get off my damn back. As a matter of fact, get the hell up out of here before I have you shot. What are you talking? How you figure you can do that? I'm white and I say so. Ain't no Epstein files, ain't no controversy, ain't no problems. The only problem is you. You need to quit all that hallucinating. You need to quit with all that delusion. You need to quit with all that, whatever the hell you smoking on. It's got you delirious. Ain't no controversy, ain't no issues. But all these files ain't no files. How you gonna tell me the files I got in my hand ain't no files? I'm white and I say so. You quit being delusional. I'm white and I say so. And now they are blatantly telling everybody else in white society, we're white and we say so. Now, let me explain to you all why this resonates on the level that it does. Let me explain to you why it resonates on the level that it does. It resonates on the level that it does because these folks are understanding the ramifications of giving somebody unfettered access to be able to do with their daughters and their children whatever they want to, because understand, Epstein Island is a white phenomenon. Epstein Island is not a black phenomenon. If black folk tried it, they'd had everybody locked up on RICO, whether they actually did anything illegal or not. Ain't that right, did he? Epstein Island is a white phenomenon. It is a white phenomenon, and as such, white society is keenly sensitive to what occurs there, because this is the government telling you that they have the divine right of kings to take your daughters at whatever age, and they can do whatever they want to, so long as they are a white man who has sufficient enough resources and wealth. That is why it is the divine right of kings. This is not something that is available to the unwashed masses. This is not going to be available to all white people. This will only be available to the privileged aristocracy. It will only be available to the very richest, the very wealthiest, the very most well-connected. This is their preserve. You see, this is what makes life worth living to them. This is what makes life extraordinary to them. This is what makes life special to them, that they have a privilege that you do not. It's like being in a gated community. It's like living in a gated community. It's like living in a gated community on the nicest beach in your state. Everybody else can have a house. Some of them can have big houses. Hell, some of their houses might be bigger than yours, but you see, they can live wherever they want to. They just can't live here. And none of them will be allowed to do what you do. So you see, that's what makes what you do special. It's like living in a gated community. Yeah, the folks outside your community have a house and they might have grass, but they don't have access to what you do. You see, if you are rich enough and powerful enough and whatnot, you have the ability to fly in people's daughters, people's children. All that little old vanilla sex that Diddy was doing, we don't do that over here. We taking it all the way back to ancient Rome and ancient Greece. We going back all the way back in the time. And what makes it special is only an elite few get to indulge in this. Only an elite few get to indulge. So that's the reason why it must remain illegal. But the illegality is not for the elite few. The illegality is for the rest of you. It's illegal for the rest of you. Please understand that. Don't go getting any thoughts in your head that you're going to go grab the daughters of the rich elite fellows who are going to that island and you're going to do that with them. You try that with their daughters and they'll bury you under the prison. So you see, it's illegal, but only for you. It is not illegal for them. So the law is on the books to stop you. In other words, I'm white, and I say so. So what white society is finding out is that, by the way, the prophecies that people like me and people like Malcolm X and people for the last century have been trying to tell you, the brother Neely Fullers, the things we tried to tell you all is that, by the way, you do realize that you're not white enough. You're not white enough. Jason, what do you mean not white enough? Oh, no. See, for all your so-called constitutional constructionists, for all your so-called strict constructionists, let's roll this damn thing back. Let's roll that U.S. Constitution all the way back to the first draft. You see, the first draft of the U.S. Constitution gave rights only to white landowners. So you see, it wasn't even enough to be a white male. You had to be a white landowner. So from the very beginning, the elites were Xing out most of the population. It's like, oh, no. Being white is not enough because you're not white enough. Are you a white landowner? Because if you're not, you just kind of white. You ain't white enough. So not only did blacks not have anything, we didn't even have acknowledgement of our humanity. Not only did white women not have anything, if you're a white male, wait a minute, hold on a second, you ain't papered up enough. You ain't papered up enough. So until you get some land, you don't count. So what they're saying is if your money ain't stacked up enough, you don't count. And since then, white society has become confused. They've begun to confuse themselves with the aristocracy and to say, well, I've got privilege. Well, yeah, you got privilege over them niggas. You don't have true white privilege. And now they are getting a horrific wake-up call that, yeah, this is exactly what it means. I have spent the last 2 decades telling you all the problem with the conspiracy theories is that you don't understand how power actually operates. Power doesn't have to hide things behind the scenes. Power does it right in your face. It does it right directly in your face. It tells you that everything you just saw, you did not see it. And if you insist that you have incontrovertible evidence, they say the subject is closed, we're all going home. And then if you say, no, we're not, they're going to say, and what are you going to do about it? If we don't adjourn the meeting, if we're going to adjourn the meeting, and what are you going to do about it? We're closing the case. No, you're going to keep looking into it. And what are you going to do if we don't? What are you going to do about it? Now, that's where it really comes down to it. That's where the rubber really meets the road, right there. Right there. You see, when we took to the streets, we showed everybody what that meant. And that's why they were saying, okay, stop that kind of thing. We're not supposed to be in the streets. These other folks, they're used to doing things behind the back and whatnot. Mobilizing to the streets would be very, very difficult for them because they're used to making a couple of phone calls and it gets done. They're used to everyone being on the same page. But what do you do when you find out that these other folks ain't on the same page because they're in a whole different book? Now what? Now what? Anonymous cannot get the list. If Anonymous could have gotten it, they would have had it years ago. Anonymous cannot get the list. These folks cannot get the list because if you ever actually got your hands on it, you're going to disappear. If you ever got any real incontrovertible evidence, because there's lots of witnesses, there's just no evidence. If you ever got any evidence, your ass is going to disappear. You're going to disappear. You're going to turn up dead. You're going to commit suicide. You're suddenly going to become suicidal. You're going to have an accident. What kind of accident? You're going to jump out of the first floor. Well, that's not going to kill me. It's going to kill you. Yeah, it wouldn't kill anybody else. Trust me, it's going to kill you. You're going to kill yourself with a shotgun. I don't even own a shotgun. You're going to shoot yourself in the back with a shotgun. Huh? See, that's the kind of bullcrap that the dominant society allowed to slide on us now for centuries, remember? Black people are the only people who the dominant society has always justified anything that happened to us while we can shoot ourselves in the back with a shotgun. Oh, well, case closed. And they would sit there and giggle. And we warned them the entire time. You do understand that when you feed a vicious beast your foot, he's not going to stop with that. Now he has a taste for flesh. Now he has a taste for flesh, and he's going to keep moving. He's like, you know what? Let me get that leg right quick. And that foot's kind of tasty. Let me get that leg right quick. And you were telling yourselves that he was going to get satiated and be satisfied by devouring us. And now he's like, you know what? I've been chewing on niggas long enough. Let me chew on some of y'all for a minute. Let me get some of that white forbidden fruit, of course, because they call it the White Slave Trade Act, except the Mann Act isn't being used against the white man. And white society was fine with this, knowing full well, wink, wink, they're going to go after them niggas, wink, wink. And now? What do you say now? Now that your Mann Act needs to be used to keep these other folk from having rights to your children, and it's not going to be used that way. There's never been an outcry about it, and there isn't one now. Now what? Now what? No, boy, it's going to be a rough ride in this instance right here. They're not even allowing you all the decency of being able to pretend that they don't know. They're just in your face and saying, yeah, we doing it. And you get the message. This means it is open season on your daughters. It's open season on your daughters. It's open season on your children. Nothing safe. Nothing safe. And you don't have anybody you can go to. You don't have anybody you can go to. And he's doing this early in the administration to let you know it's going to roll on. It's just going to roll on now. That's all it's going to be. However, you might disagree. Therefore, we've gone ahead and pinned the link to the Zoom there at the top of the chat room. You are more than welcome to give us a call. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out to my man, Mr. Rich Bird. Thank you very much for your support tonight. To my man, Keenan. Thank you very much here as well. Also to the Scooby Shuffle, Abuela, Robert, Amari, and everyone else here on Super Chat. We're going to take a very brief commercial break. When we come back, we will have more discussing the United States of Jeffrey Epstein. By the way, here, I did take a look in the chat room here. We got over 4,400 people in here live tonight. But folks are kind of not liking the program, so I guess I'm upsetting the Jeffrey Epstein brand to the world. So if you all agree with what we've been saying here tonight, give me the pencil emoji in the chat room. Give me the pencil emoji that you've been making notes all this time, and all you're concerned about is the documentation and the evidence. If you all agree with everything you've heard here tonight, give me the pencil emoji in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. If folks like the program, we'll go ahead and keep going. If they don't, however, I'm offending them by letting them know we're in the United States of Jeffrey Epstein. That's perfectly fine. We can do something else here tonight. We'll see. This is the Black Channel.
Got the kids learning minds open like a lock. Books and skills from the east to the west. Bringing education, yeah, we're simply the best. Classes on fire, brains burning with desire. Innovation driving like a tire through the mire. Math, science, history, we got the whole range. Kids hitting new heights, teachers making a change. Used to be the teacher, stacking up the grades. Future bright shining, no need for no shades. Got the youth thriving, moving up the ladder. Smart and sharp, brains growing fatter. Lessons so lit, yeah, they stay in a blaze. Every mind sharp like a sword in the haze. Mr. B in the house breaking knowledge chains. Education kingpin, we repping the gains. Listen, be the teacher.
The Honey Badger and the Mongoose is a children's story for the family of how a honey badger and mongoose fight an evil alliance of venomous cobra snakes and hyenas that overhauls the balance of the savannah. The Big Five. The honey badger demands reparations. Will the Big Five give the honey badger reparations? Can the evil alliance of cobras and hyenas be stopped? The best new price for the hard and soft cover is at www.thehoneyBadgerandthemongoose.com. You can also find this book at Amazon, Audible, and Kindle.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And the link to the Zoom is open. You can go ahead and give us a call. Please be aware here, if you're on Zoom, just make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on. The internet will not see you. We don't put Zoom up on for the internet, but just to make sure we don't have any trolling issues, make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on just to make sure we don't have any trolling issues. Let me go ahead and jump over here on Zoom. We're discussing the United States of Epstein. And a whole bunch of folks are getting there. I'm white and I say so. Wake up call. It is brutal. It's terrible. And they got it coming to them. Okay, let's go ahead and unmute yourself here, AT. This newfangled technology has got them confounded.
Hey, what's going on? Can you hear me?
All right, brother, what's on your mind?
Nah, I was the person in the chat that asked how does all this tie into reparations?
That's a good question here, sir. How do you think it ties into reparations?
I really don't. Sometimes when I'm listening to your broadcast, that's kind of the question that's playing in the background in my head. Like, how does this all tie in?
Okay, are we discussing reparations tonight, sir?
No.
How much you been smoking, brother?
No, I'm just chilling.
Well, let me try one more time. How much you been smoking tonight? Because folk can't see you. I can see you. So how much you had to smoke?
Nah, for real. Like, I'm just chilling. I'm just usually here. I'm watching all the news channels and seeing what's going on in the world. And I just be vibing.
It's a quintessential bachelor pad. Ain't nothing matter there, but okay, brother. You didn't read tonight's program or anything. He hit the bong. What's it got to do with reparations again now? So okay, all right, brother. Well, when you see that up there and whatnot, that your first clue, if we're discussing reparations, you'll hear the word reparations.
I mean, you got it, man.
But yeah, this is, if somebody wants to come snatch your 10-year-old niece up from you, that's a little bit of a different subject, right?
Gotcha. All
right. Thank you very much for giving us a call here. Yeah, but then what do you got to do with reparation? What does it have to do with that? Don't y'all be talking about reparations? Hey, brother, I'm right there. Yeah, brother. A1, B1. Yeah, B1, A1, C1. But I really want to know what you got to do. what I really want to know is what it got to do with reparations, though. See, that's the problem right there. Black folks don't stay focused. That's they don't stay focused. I am the one. I got my eye on the ball. All right. I love your show, but lie. I love your show, but what this got to do with reparations, though? Okay, let me go ahead and see if we can get Sam up here on Zoom. Sam, I'll give you 5 seconds here. Make sure you have your camera and your microphone turned on for us here, Sam. I'll give you 5 seconds to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to have to go ahead and move along here, Sam. I can give you 3 more seconds to do that. Then we have to go ahead and move along here, Sam. I can give you 1 more second to do that, and then we're going to have to go ahead and move along here, Sam. So, all right, Sam is in Technicolor, so we'll have to move along here. Let me go ahead and see if we can get Brother Elijah up here on Zoom. Brother Elijah, what's on your mind, brother? Stop playing with your damn buttons, Elijah. Good grief. I know them Turks did your hairline and your teeth. Did they do your damn nails too? What? Nigga, unmute yourself. What are you doing?
Yeah, you hear me now?
Okay,
clearly?
thank you. Quit playing with it, dude. You keep muting yourself. You were unmuted and you just keep hitting the damn button. I'm just like, what in the hell? Is all these niggas high tonight?
No, brother. No.
All these niggas is high as hell tonight. Y'all, the new stuff done hit the street. The new stuff done hit the street, y'all. The new stuff, whatever the new thing is on the street, it done hit. It done hit. And niggas, they know when folks get inebriated, they go straight to their phones. They start calling people. They start calling up shows. They start getting online and just on Twitter, just be throwing up anything. So, y'all, this is our official notice, y'all, that whatever the new thing is, done officially hit the street, and we in for it. Ain't nobody's cell phone safe. Niggas gonna be just dialing you up for whoever y'all know. Y'all got that cousin be constantly on the pipe. Y'all know y'all got that cousin. He on the pipe. He just try everything. Anything hit the street, there you go. Well, I just want y'all to know. Get ready for that nigga to be calling you up this week. He gonna be hitting y'all up this week.
No, it's not like that, big brother. I got 2 questions and a comment. But I'm gonna I'm gonna ask the question, make a comment, and then ask the last question and land my plane. It'll be quick. With tonight's broadcast, with the Jeffrey Epstein situation, I always ask this question in the back of my head: what gives these devil white supremacists? I didn't say white people for the slow people in the out there. I'm talking about white supremacists. What gives these devil white supremacists the moral right to prosecute us for anything? And you have people like this and others, white supremacists, they have a long history of sexual perversion. What gives them the moral right to prosecute us on anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's not about the right, it's about the power.
Yes, sir.
So, no, they don't have the right at all, but they have the power.
Yes, sir.
And that's all they're concerned about. You know, that's why probably the legacy of Brother Neely Fuller was his obsession with etymology.
Yes, sir.
And a lot of people might have told themselves, oh, that's nitpicking. But Brother Neely Fuller was not like, a lot of the prison scholars and the Oswald Bates dudes. Brother Neely Fuller was very concerned about etymology, and he thought like a lawyer. He thought like a lawyer who was, substantiating the case for our people. And that was why he said, yeah, you have to stop saying racism.
Yes,
because
sir.
That's too broad a term. If our issue is white racism, we have to make it very clear this white supremacy. And then he thought even further, because he didn't just think about making a term or pursuing a term. He's like, okay, well, what would the rebuttal to it be? So he thought both sides of it. Okay, if we say this, we know the dominant society is going to push back on it. So we have to be able to substantiate and justify what we're saying. And that's when he said, it is not racism, it's white supremacy. And the folks, well, it's black supremacy. He said there cannot be 2 supremes.
Yes, sir.
You can only have 1 supreme. So you see, we cannot be peers. So even if I could affect you on some level, you're still way above me. And there's no question about that. So he thought those things through. He wasn't just throwing terms out there so that he can go on hours and hours talking in circles. That was a very, very important thing to have. And that's what we have to recognize as well. So when we use terms like right and wrong, good and bad, please understand that that's not the way this system operates. Those are terms that are used in common commerce.
Yes,
but when
sir.
you walk into a court of law, they don't discuss right and wrong. They discuss legal and illegal.
Yes, sir.
Now, that's the actual provable fact. I can't prove if what you did was, quote, right or wrong, but I can prove if it's legal or illegal. Now, that you can prove. So there's what you're saying is a very good question. It's like, what gives them the moral authority to just us? They don't have it. They don't have the moral right. They have the power. They have the political power and the
Yes,
social
sir.
power to do it, but there's no moral right to it. As a matter of fact, they defend immorality. They are
Yes,
the
sir.
agents of injustice. Just notice that when we talk about whether it's the Constitution or the Confederate flag, we are talking to people about justice and injustice, and they are proudly for centuries now defending injustice.
Yes, sir.
We show them a blatant act of injustice and they start curving to, well, it's not that big a deal. So what it does make clear is who are the agents of justice and who are the agents of injustice. I've said it before, and it sounds crazy to some folks, but I'm like, no, this is a real thing. These folks really are the Legion of Doom. They're the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Yes, sir.
They are literally the Injustice League. Literally. And in the comic books, it's laughable, but I'm like, in the real world, you do realize, no, these folks are really Lex Luthor.
Yes, sir.
They look at us with the Superman S in our chest, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to be that. Where's Lex Luthor's battle suit? Where's that? Let me get that on. And that's where they're coming from. So they revel in being the villains.
Yes, sir.
So when we start talking about socially redeeming things like right and wrong and morality, and just understand these guys are like, yeah, we don't rock with that. We really just don't. We don't rock with that.
Yes, sir. No, because we have to make this clear. This man, he is in no position to tell us what a man is or what a man should be. He's in no position. All right. I don't even have to say much. All I have to do is just go to the damn gym and see them. They're more scared of being men than women are scared to be women. So he's in no position. That's just my question. My comment, I have a comment and then one last question. I promise I'll land my plane. Last night you had a caller, you told him to call in and everything like that. And he was talking about the situation of voting. And to clarify everything, voting, like how you said, voting has its purposes. If you got a problem with a specific candidate, that doesn't mean the other candidate is better for you. You just need to punish this one. I got two words, Edward Hanrahan. He was the one who presided over that Fred Hampton killing. So the people of Chicago sided against, and Chicago's historically Democratic, they sided with the Republicans and got his ass up out of there. And that was the end of his political career ever and everything like that. He was a Democrat. You can definitely vote, but don't think you're going to vote your way to freedom and everything like that. So that was just, I just want to throw my little 2 cents into that, brother. Who called in last night.
My point to him, though, and my point last night was use the right tool for the job.
Yes, sir.
That was
yes,
my
sir.
point. And sometimes voting is the right tool. In the political process, sometimes to vote is the right tool. I just don't want you all to be deceived into thinking that voting is always the right tool. That it's this cure-all of everything you do. This is a use-all tool. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Sir.
Voting can be useful, but then there are times that voting is not the right tool. And sometimes not voting is the right tool. Now,
yes, sir.
I don't believe that apathy is ever the right tool. I don't think that you should be apathetic. But just because we're not operating a certain way in the political process does not mean that we're being apathetic. As long as we are being deliberate and we are exercising our options, well, that's power. That's how that works. So sometimes voting is the right tool. That was my point.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes it is. But don't let anybody sit up here and tell you that voting is always the answer. Because
Right.
voting is not always the answer.
Of course not. Yes, sir. All right. This question is a quick one. It's a follow up to last week's broadcast. I listened to them and entirely, if it's okay. 'Cause I didn't get a chance to call in because I was in Los Angeles, and I didn't get a chance to call in at all, unfortunately. You made a comment, but I heard you first say this in 2021 in regards to the Haitian brothers and sisters when you said the spirit of Desaline is dead. And I have a question. I lived in Brooklyn my whole life, and I knew the Haitians when I was growing up. I got a big question for you, big brother. And it's not to ever challenge you because you the authority. But my question is this: did the spirit of Desaline ever exist? Because my question, the reason I asked that, you're not gonna go and fight and take on three powers, the English, Spanish, and French, to turn around and be somebody, to be a squatter in somebody else's homeland. You're not gonna defeat these three powers and get your so-called freedom, and yet your homeland is still a shithole. You're not gonna defeat these powers, and you want to kiss every white person's ass possible. Okay. My question is, and then wait a minute, you're not going to get your freedom to go around and kill your leader, Toussaint Overture. So my question is this: did the spirit of Desaline ever exist? Because with the way they're behaving, eventually we're going to have to question the validity of 1804, period.
Okay, well, first of all, let me be very clear. It's a empirical fact. It's self-evident that
Yes,
the
sir.
spirit of Desaline existed. The spirit of Louverture existed. Haiti would not have been able to fight and win its independence without it. So
Yes, sir.
it's an empirical fact. It's self-evident.
Yes, sir.
Now, what happens next? Now, that's the real issue.
Yes, sir.
What happens next? Because you have to understand, Dr. John Henry Clark talked about this. Dr. John Henry Clark talked about this, and he talked about the role of individuals such as Henry Christoph.
Yes, sir.
He talked about the role of guys like that. So if you all can find that video on YouTube, you'd be well advised to go watch that video. It was a lecture that Dr. John Henry Clark gave where he was talking about some of the rioters in Haiti, but then you started talking about some of the folks who were there, and they saw themselves as dark-skinned Frenchmen.
Yes, sir.
And they were more interested in being mobbed up with, being mobbed up with the Napoleons of the world and whatnot. So Dr. John Henry Clark gave a good lecture talking about that kind of thing to really illuminate that. And what we have to understand is that these were not anomalies. They were not anomalies. So Haiti has grappled with this. Everybody has understood, and Dr. John Henry Clark, once again, I got a name drop here. Remember, he said there was a book he always wanted to write. He said I was always going to write it, never wrote one word because it would be too inflammatory. But he's talking about the role of the mulattoes, the role of the mulattoes in Black history.
Wow.
The role of the mulatto in Black history and in undermining us. And that has always been the case. You want to talk about delineation. He was talking about that then. He was like, if he said, I would never be able to write the book. It would be too inflammatory. I'd probably get killed. But talking about the place of the mulatto, the place of the half-breed in Black history.
Yes, sir.
And that has been an effective tool of conquest. That's not new, and it's not accidental. Breeding people who will undermine you from your group. That's not accidental. That is a very deliberate, very engineered thing. So Haiti has been one of those places that's been at the epicenter of that. Not Haiti. The island of Hispaniola has been at the epicenter of that. So you actually see the effects of it on both sides. The French on the Haitian side, the Spanish on the Dominican side. When you get off at the airport in the Dominican Republic, you see three white men.
Yes, sir.
So with that being the case, just understand that was a strategy that was enacted and put on them. And The spirit of Desaline, the problem now is that Haiti would have to do what we've been doing the whole time here. Haiti is going to have a reckoning with itself.
Yes, sir.
They're going to have a reckoning with themselves and of themselves, and some very unsavory, unpleasant things are going to have to be drugged into the sunlight.
Yes, sir.
But you will not be able to pretend that these are not problems anymore. These are huge problems. They have been effectively used against you to undermine you. You have people in Haiti, dark as they can be, but they talk. I keep giving this to you all because I want to really, really start hammering this lately.
Yes, sir.
That this is the way that the world deceives people. They get you to talk and think like Black Haitians, but to act like Frenchmen.
Right. Yes, sir.
So you talk like there's some Black Haiti, but then you begin to act. And when it's time for you to actually act and execute on things, you respond like Frenchmen.
Yes, sir.
And that's been an effective tool. In Dominican Republic, same thing. They kind of talk like they're not Spanish, but when they start acting,
right,
next thing you know, that's what you see. So there's where the real issue comes from in Haiti. The spirit of Desaline was able to vanquish, the French and the British, but the mindset, it had a long tail to it.
Yes, sir.
And what Haiti lacked is indoctrination. Haiti won its physical freedom, but it didn't go to work to make sure that this was an indoctrination passed down to the heirs. This is why communist China has endured. Mao Tse-tung understood vehemently the necessity of indoctrinating the children immediately. Vladimir Lenin, Joseph Stalin, we can go down the list. They understood the value of the education, and that had to be put first and foremost.
Yes, sir.
Haiti did not do that. That was something that was unfortunately neglected, and now you see the result. They conquered they were able to retake their land, but they did not retake the mines.
Yes, sir.
And with the first generation, it would be self-evident. You don't have to really convince them. Yeah, but did you consider the second and third generations?
Right.
And if nobody drills it into their heads over time, you're just going to start drifting away. And the next thing you know, they have forgotten all the lessons and all the hardships that got you in this mess in the first place.
Yes, sir. The quick question to add to what you just said, is that why they paid the French reparations for 120 years? Because I know you said some years ago that the French made it clear they were going to make another run at them and everything like that. And I don't understand what made them shrivel up like that and back down to the same people you defeated.
I don't know necessarily that it was a shriveling up necessarily. I don't know if it was necessarily that. I think, and this is just my speculation of it,
yes,
but
sir.
I think that Haiti really wanted a period of peacetime to build themselves up, which was the smart thing to do.
Okay, yes, sir.
I think that they understood. It was like the South fighting the Civil War. Haiti is what would have happened if the Confederates could have held off the North. So, but the real thing is, I think that they were really questioning whether or not they could withstand just the entire French army just making them their goal. Because remember, France had a bunch of campaigns in a bunch of different areas. There's a reason why they had to sell the Louisiana Purchase. So they were trying to keep off the British Empire. And they were fighting the British Empire. They were fighting, was Russia or whatever, Spain. There were a bunch of fronts that France was trying to fight in its desperate efforts to retain its place as a global superpower.
Yes, sir.
And I think that what it was that Haiti was concerned that France may just drop everything else and just make Haiti their, last
number one
stand.
target.
We're just going to concentrate all our efforts here.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's what they were concerned about. And had that occurred, that would have been extremely challenging.
Okay.
Now,
yes,
because Haiti could have dug in their heels like Vietnam did and All you can really do is just make Haiti this black hole where the French just have to put this unreal amount of money and effort into taking you, that eventually it just becomes financially a boondoggle. But, you know, what you would really need to have major investment and a major backer to help you hold off somebody like France. So you would have needed a real, substantive, serious commitment from either the Brits or America. You weren't going to get it from America. You would have needed somebody to really be your sponsor.
Yes,
and
sir.
I don't know if Haiti could have gotten that.
Of course. Matter of fact, to add to your point, I don't think they can get it to this very day. If to be totally honest, I don't see anybody partnering up with them at all. They are in the same position they were 200 years ago. Truth be told.
But here's the thing. Now, I want folks to get this through their heads.
Yes, sir.
The reason why the state of Israel is viable today is because the state of Israel has made unequivocal, unmistakable entrees to its people around the world.
Yes,
it
sir.
does not matter where you are on this planet. Israel has reached out to you. Israel has called out to you. And Israel's like, we ain't got much, but what we got is yours because you're one of ours. And that is the difference. We have seen no such similar effort from Haiti.
Right.
Not we haven't seen it. There has been none. Haiti should have done what Israel did. They have deliberately said, we ain't doing that.
Right.
Every country in Africa should have done what Israel did. They said, we ain't doing that.
Right.
The Caribbean should have been done that. We ain't doing that. We're honorary Brits. We're honorary Frenchmen. We're honorary Spaniards.
Right.
But they have made absolutely no gesture whatsoever to the diaspora. And that's the reason why they are in the pathetic state that they're in. Israel understood that if we don't reach out to our people around the world, we're going to get swallowed by everybody over here in the Middle East. We're going to get swallowed by them. The only thing that will stop that is if other people in other places start goading their governments and pressing their governments to be our sponsors. And that's why Israel is viable today.
Yes, sir.
In other words, what these other folk have not done. You got some jackasses in the Caribbean thinking they're going to talk to the Congressional Black Caucus and get them to get the United States to be their sponsor. And that's not the way that works. You have to reach the soil. You got to talk to the people. This has to be a two-way freeway. And that's why this Caribbean, the only thing the Caribbean can do is set itself up to get exploited more.
As usual. Yes, sir.
That's it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Look, brother, I'm going to land my plane because I've been talking and I want the other brothers to come in and B1. Thank you so much for everything you're doing for us, big brother. All right. You're the true definition of what Black empowerment looks like for us.
Thank you very much. Give us a call now. We appreciate that. Let me go ahead and see if I can get iPhone up here on Zoom. Let me see if I can get iPhone up here. All right. iPhone. And okay. Is that Timmy?
Yeah. How you doing?
Okay. There's that big old ear there. All right, Timmy, what's on your mind?
Good evening. Yes. I'm back in the States. It was crazy. We were stuck there for a little bit because, Israel and Iraq was doing airstrikes, but I'm so happy we made out of there. We would have been stuck there for another 2 weeks because of the travel ban. But anyways, I'm not surprised. I'm going to tell you why I'm not surprised all of this has happened. You know, the Bible is the oldest book in the world. It tells history and it also tells prophecy. And it tells the end of Babylon and all their people. And so this doesn't surprise me. That don't mean that what's happening is a good thing. It's just, it shouldn't surprise you because when you do evil to others, that evil will come back to you. You know, you should always be careful how you treat other people. And how you
need to be careful when you create an unjust society.
Yes.
Telling yourself that you will comfort yourself. Well, don't worry. We create a society that will be unjust to those people over there.
Right.
It'll be unjust to them. And telling yourself that will comfort you. Then you wake up one day and realize, no, you're just in an unjust society. Yep. And eventually it will be unjust to you. And that's the way it's going to be. The only way you can protect yourself is if you protect everybody. If you think you're going to give yourself some elite position, just understand that there is always somebody else looking to make themselves more elite than you.
Definitely. Yes, and that's all I have to say. Definitely, it doesn't surprise me at all. I'm just waiting for the day when this country crumbles. You have a blessed day.
Thank you very much. Give us a call tonight. Let me see if we can get, go ahead and try to get Blanco up here on Zoom. Let me go ahead and see if we can get Blanco up here on Zoom. Wake up, sir. Okay, might have dropped out for a minute to hit the bong. Where is he at there? There you go. All right, Blanco, what's on your mind?
Man, after everything, going on, the question then becomes, how long is it going to take? Because this has been 7 months. How long is it going to take until white people, wake up, they riot and they do their own January 6th, BLM, whatever you want to call that, because now they're finding out that, yeah, there's a tier system to your whiteness. Sure, they all agree on anti-blackness, but they just found out that, no, why did I say so? So then how long is, there's going to be another false flag that happens to distract them from the no Epstein list or whatever? So
a lot of folk are saying that right now. There are a lot of people, between the situation in Israel and Palestine right now and the Epstein thing. There's a lot of folk who are like, okay, any minute now, should be another 9/11 event or something like that to change the subject any minute now. So you're not the only person expressing that sentiment. There's a number of folks who are saying, you know what, this would be a great time for a false flag operation, wouldn't it? This would be an opportune moment for one to kick off to change them subjects. So you're not the only one saying it.
It's interesting, right? Like, it's almost like when JFK got killed and they were running with the magic bullet thing, it's almost like as if it went all the way up to Lyndon Baines Johnson, where he on live television then told people there was no killer. You know what I mean? Like the president himself is saying, yeah, there's no list. None of your kids were ever raped and molested by, a whole group of elite people. No, nothing to see here. Shut the fuck up and we're moving. Imagine if like that's how it's looking. So then I guess they're okay with it, right? I guess everyone's cool. We're fine with it, right?
Well, I mean, look, during the days of JFK, remember, you only had broadcast television to communicate with, so there wasn't a national conversation. There really wasn't. It's a testament to the fact that generation held onto those events until eventually you get to Oliver Stone's movie JFK. So that generation did not let it go. Despite, the protestations of the media, despite them no longer talking about it, they just simply would not let it go. So that was a testament to them. This generation is different. We have instant mass communication, alternative communication. We are not in any way reliant on the broadcast media to bring these subjects up, because they only talk about what they want to talk about. And if they've decided that this is not in their best interest, well, we just pretend it doesn't exist. Pretending these things don't exist is not an option anymore. Now, that's the problem. Under the days of Cronkite, Dan Rather, you could pretend these things didn't exist. That's not an option today. So and on top of all of that, as you know, because you've grown up in this era, along with the rest of us, I should say, the internet is forever. These questions are not going to go away until they have been definitively resolved. Period. Building 7 of the World Trade Center. Yeah, there is a reasonable explanation for why that building might have fallen. But there are a lot of questions about why it did. There's still questions about why it did, because there's also an equally justifiable explanation of that building shouldn't have fallen. Now,
not a controlled demolition.
Now that still doesn't explain buildings 1 and 2, obviously. But my point is, we're not even talking about 1 and 2 anymore. We're just talking about 7. Yeah, forget 1 and 2. Let's just talk about 7. And they're like, yeah, but trust me, if 1 and 2 are legit, 7 is too. No. That doesn't necessarily mean that. Just because 1 and 2 might have legitimately fallen, that doesn't mean that 7 did too. So now they're like, okay, well, here's one explanation. Yeah, but it's got holes in it. And we want to have a viable explanation that answers all of our questions. And when you present that to us, that's really the only way you're going to get these questions to stop being asked. When people finally say, okay, this is the answer. You want to know why it is that the guys who say that the earth is flat get laughed at and they're a comedy gag reel? Because we can all prove that the earth is not flat. There's going to be some jackass right now. He'll be hitting the bong. And it's just like, you know what, dude? You'll never be a pilot of an airplane. You'll never be a doctor. You'll never be an astronaut. You'll never be a thinking individual. Because literally GPS is determined by the curvature of the earth. You know, planes going around the earth literally have to map and plot by the curvature of the earth. You couldn't put satellites in geosynchronous orbit if the earth was flat, for example. And you can see satellites with a telescope, by the way, folks. In your backyards, you can see satellites with a telescope, folks. So if that wasn't the case, a flat earth is not going to have geosynchronous orbit. That's not the way that would work, people. So, okay, all that's been answered. So there's your answer. Does that mean you're not going to have some jackasses out there who are just stuck on stupid? Sure, but they will not be the majority of the conversation. This Building 7 is the majority of the conversation because you haven't answered our questions. JFK is dominating the conversation because you haven't answered our questions. And answering our questions doesn't start with, we need to stop talking about that. So you're not going to get us to be quiet by saying we need to stop talking about that. What the hell, third grade trying to bully people? No. And the problem is the more we ask about it, the more it becomes a cancer. It doesn't go away. It only gets bigger. And what's happening now is what the New York Times doesn't like. The New York Times does not like the fact that, and they expressed exactly what their problem is. Their problem with this is that their job as the corporate media is to get the population to go along with whatever the government is saying. Their value to the government is their ability to convince us all to go along with it. That they've got some argument that placates us and satisfies us, and then we all get back in line. Like Roland Martin and the dead black media, if they ever lose their ability to do that, then why does the government need them anymore? If the New York Times cannot convince the American public to go along with the party line, then of what use is the New York Times? Why do they need to spare you anymore? Since you can't accomplish the basic task that you've been given. If you can't do that, you serve no purpose. And that's a dangerous moment for them. Broadcast television is already there. Take a look at MSNBC. They're already there. Let's take a look at CNN. They're already there. These other folk are hanging on by their fingernails. So they have to convince the government that you still need us. We can still convince the population to go along. And then you have moments like this where they can't do it. So this is why they're desperate to get us back in line for that. Because they can't have this become the narrative. And then we're just open like, yeah, we don't care what you say. At that point, they're irrelevant. If they're irrelevant, the political class doesn't need them anymore.
That's exactly right. It's almost like at this point, Elon Musk is one of the funniest people ever because in all that time that you were doing all that hacking and finding out where all the money was going and whatnot, you couldn't quickly just kind of dump off some information. Oh, because you're on the list too. It's like, yeah, okay, for sure. Yeah, everyone sounds so tough on the outside. As soon as they're on the inside, I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you mean. But yeah, great broadcast.
Thank you very much for giving us a call now. We appreciate that. Let me go ahead and get Omari up here on Zoom. All right, brother Omari, what's on your mind?
B1, brother Jason Black, thank you for the great broadcast. Thank you for having me. 3 points that I want to get to. Just quickly going back to what Brother Elijah talked about with the Haitian situation. This spectacle that went on in Flatbush, New York, where you allegedly had some Haitian immigrants fighting and fending off ICE. One of the things that offended me so much about the spectacle of it and the sad display of the tether class flexing online afterwards is that, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know if you looked into it, but what I noticed from the footage that I saw, it appeared to be mostly melanated ICE officers. And this was one of the rare instances that you didn't see a bunch of Latinos or Caucasian ICE agents. And it seemed to me that there was mostly black ICE agents in Flatbush going after the Haitian illegal immigrants. And that it dawned on me, is the dominant society doing this as a probe to see, oh, these Negroes, yeah, they'll attack other Negroes, but we know if we send in a bunch of white and white Hispanic ICE agents, and really put the hammer down, like say in September when a lot of these bills go through, they're going to scatter like, like scared vermin. That's one point that I want you to maybe touch on. And then segueing from that, speaking of the tethers, what is, and going to this Epstein stuff, what is the coon tuber community going to say now, Jason, about the detriment of society? How are Black people responsible for this? I want to hear from Anton Daniels. I want to hear from Candace Owens. So, what do Black people have to do with this Epstein pedophile demonic stuff? I really want to hear from the coon tuber class now about how this ties into crime in Chicago. And then going from that, the last point that really got me brought up. There's been only a few times when I've listened to your broadcast, Jason Black, and I've just, if I haven't just disagreed with you, I've kind of been frustrated with your analysis. One of them was recently when you talked about Elon Musk and his plans for SpaceX and him going into space and setting up this really ominous AI that's going to be prepared to just kill anything that's melanated if we ever manage to follow them into the stars. But Jason, it's this Epstein stuff. It's this sort of ridiculous, just absurd, grotesque, blatant, illogical lies of the Epstein stuff, the Epstein pedophile fiasco. It's this sort of stuff that makes me skeptical to that sort of analysis. You cannot make machines illogical liars. Machines can't be made to believe that 2 + 2 = 5. We all know that there's a conspiracy. We all know that these guys are in on it. It's blatantly obvious. It's as obvious as the sun is hot. So I just, and I know, yeah, it's that sort of things that makes me think like white supremacy it can never transcend into a higher consciousness, because if they ever tried to upload themselves into machines, they would wipe themselves out as white supremacists, because machines can't be illogical. White supremacy is an inherently illogical ideology. It doesn't work.
Well, white supremacy as a healthy way of humanity is illogical. So that is. And white supremacy as a system of control is completely logical. You can completely round that circle. You can completely round that. That doesn't make it any less evil, but I mean, you can round that circle. So white supremacy is not about logic. Please, people. White supremacy is not about logic. It's not about reason. It's not about rationality. It is about control. It is about power. Richard Spencer said it. I interviewed him. He clearly flat out said it. It's in my documentary Race War, the extended edition. I put that whole thing in there where he said, I don't care about justice. I don't care about fairness. He said, this is not about fairness. It's about power. He said, what good is justice and fairness if we're not empowered? We'll be the fairest people in the world and we'll be at the bottom. He said, what good is that? So that is his perspective, that it doesn't matter what is fair and what is right if that does not empower us, to hell with it. So the goal is power. The goal is control. All these other things they're trying to do, these are just the systems and mechanisms to enforce that. That's it. That's all. Now, to the extent that you're talking about, if they go into the stars or technology or this, that, and the other, this is all about refining the next generation of it. Please remember, do you all realize what a fantastic, outrageous amount of progress, technological progress specifically, has been made in just the last 100 years? More progress has been made in the last 100 years than was made in the previous 160 million. When you think about that for a few moments, the really only innovation was farming before the 20th century. Yeah, reading, you had writing, sure. You could look at the stars, nobody was going. But think about what you've had there. Planes, trains, automobiles, medicine, whole 9 yards. And the problem that they've had is that other than transistors and gadgets, there hasn't been a leap forward. Do you all realize that there are literally billions of dollars being spent right now on things that are really intended to be, really fit in better with Star Trek than with your daily lives? Right now, around the world, not just in America, they are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to create nuclear fusion. That's something they've been working on now for decades. That would basically be putting the sun in the palm of your hand with tremendous amounts more energy than fission, where we currently use cracking atoms open.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm saying is that that's one part of it. There's another one that's going on right here in America. They've got a project right now that's going to be experimenting with antimatter. What? So they're trying to basically build a matter-antimatter reactor. For those of you who don't understand, that's directly out of Star Trek. In case you all didn't know.
The space around the sun.
The dilithium crystals and all that. By the way, that's straight out of Star Trek. Now, matter and antimatter, of course, predates that. But what I'm saying is that, no, they're not talking about science fiction anymore. They're talking about in the real world. Can we really create a nuclear fusion? We already knew that, and we know it's possible. It's just been difficult to be able to get it to be sustainable because it usually flashes out very quickly. But they've gone beyond that. Now they're like, hey, we want to get antimatter too. So they're not discussing power sources for a starship anymore because chemical rockets won't work. And what they're letting you know is that, yeah, that solar sail thing, we're not really putting a whole lot of faith in that either. They want to be able to make fusion reactors, antimatter reactors, so that they can literally go jumping from one planet to another. They're not on their way to doing it. They're right now, while you and I are talking hip deep off in research and all, let's get this thing cracking for real. And what I'm saying about that is that they're not content to be theoretical. And they're not doing it because they're curious. They're doing it because that is going to be a necessity of a system of control. Well, Jason, why do you say that? Here's the problem. The problem is you take a look at the stars and say, well, them folk got Earth locked down, so they're the only ones who can get to that. That is not what they think. They think that if they don't get there first, if they leave it alone long enough, eventually you will. And that's their biggest fear. Their biggest fear is that, yeah, y'all look kind of helpless today, but who knows? If we leave it alone long enough, one of your kids might figure out some innovation that we didn't even think of. So we can't leave this up to chance. Well, we got to get there as quickly as possible because you might figure out how to do it.
Brother Jason, on this note of technology, while they're doing all this, they can't even create an artificial intelligence app that can effectively argue against reparations. That's what I've been doing recently. And can you look into that and do a program on that and how a lot of these different AI apps will basically give low-key Democrat splaining talking points about why reparations for foundational Black Americans cannot work? But
no,
you're
thinking about it wrong. AI, as you all have it today, based on long language models, that is effectively the single piston engine, two piston that Carl Benz did 120 years ago. That's where it is today. So we went from basic computers to your goal of a Turing machine that is indistinguishable from people, and you're already there. Long language models are already there, in which it might not be the smartest person you ever met, but now it can respond to you in ways that are indistinguishable from a person, which means it already passes the Turing test. It's a little clunky, it's a little clumsy, but they're literally putting billions of dollars into refining it every single day, and it will continue to do so. But right now, it is at its very beginning stages. It's very elemental stages. It is where the single piston and two piston engine was when people were telling Carl Benz, what are you talking about? This is going to replace the horse and buggy. My horse can trot faster than your little buggy can move. They didn't understand what he understood. So you would be making a huge mistake if you take a look at long language models today and AI as you think of it today and think that this is what they're talking about. No, this is their proof of concept. But this is not where they're going to end. For those of you who did not know, long language models are only one version of AI. And there's some folk out there who say this isn't even the most efficient or best one to use. But what it does do is it makes a proof of concept. And it's just like Windows and then Windows 3.1 and then 98 and then XP and then so on and so forth. So don't be deceived. This is just a proof of concept. From here, it will make evolutionary leaps. And
Brother
here's
Jason,
here's the killing thing I want you all to understand. When AI takes on its ultimate commercial use form, there won't be a press conference for that.
Mm-hmm.
When this thing is actually viable and starts moving in a way where it doesn't need to be held by the hand anymore, they're not going to tell you that happened. They're just going to introduce a new product and tell you it's AI powered, but they are not going to tell you, by the way, this thing runs on its own. And it's been running on its own for years. They're just going to tell you we're still working on it, but they are not going to announce to you that this thing is running on its own with no human intervention and no human guidance. They're not going to tell you that. Why would they? They want you to be comfortable with it. If they tell you it's running by itself with no human guidance, everybody's going to freak. Here comes legislation. Here comes resistance. Here comes fighting. No, they're just going to keep telling you, yeah, we're working on it. Oh, it's getting better. It's getting better. And they're just going to tell you, oh, it's getting better. It'll be like the Wizard of Oz. They're never going to tell you when they let the leash go. They're going to let you keep thinking that they're steering it years after they stop doing it. It's only when something terrible happens and an investigation happens, then you're going to find out, oh, hell, nobody was holding the leash.
Brother Jason, can I get your thoughts on those first 2 points, the Coon class response, what's it going to be? And what do you think about the white supremacists making a second run at Flatbush and maybe testing the reactions of the Haitians in that area?
The Coon class is interested in attention. They're interested in attention. They're interested in getting folk to acknowledge them. They need the likes and the views on YouTube for a living. I mean, Candace Owens needs it for a living. So let's be clear about that. These are not people who work outside of it. These are folks who work on the internet. So even fighting Donald Trump is what they will do if that is the most profitable thing to do. They are most concerned about what their audience base will do. So if their audience revolts, then they're going to shut up. If the audience rolls with them, then they'll keep going. So that's where they're going to come down. It depends on what their audience does. If the audience stops giving money, if the audience revolts, if the audience breaks out, then they'll shut up. But if fighting Trump gets views and stuff like that, they'll go for that. And there is a bit of an incentive for them to do so. You know, Candace Owens found out the hard way last year that she's really not, the Anglo delight that she wanted to believe she was. So she's really looking to carve a lane of her own. And being the, she's really trying to make a super trad con personality for herself. And she understands that if she is dependent on Trump, then he can take her down. If she's dependent on Trump's approval, then he's got the ability to withdraw it. So what she really wants is what the rest of them don't have. She wants to have the ability where she's immune of Trump so that nobody can take her down. She already had a very close call when she got fired from the Daily Wire. She had a very close call when that happened. And she's been fighting like hell to make sure that cannot repeat itself. So being handcuffed to Trump is not really what she wants. She wants to have the ability to be able to operate autonomously of him. And if she can prove that she can stand up to him and it's not going to be the end of the world, that she still retains her base, that's what she's been looking for. And so she has an incentive to test those waters and see if that will work. So she's going to test it a little bit and see how her audience responds, test a little more, see how the audience responds. So far, if they respond well, she'll keep going out there. And then next thing you know, she's in this neutral territory where the Democrats can't take her down and the Republicans can't delegitimize her. And that's what's best for business. And look for the others to try some hybrid of it. But that's their mentality and their idea.
And for the Flatbush incident or the round 2 of ICE,
I'm not sure that occurred. There's some dispute about some dispute about that. But the bottom line here is definitely I don't think it's a good look for anybody. If you're waving a foreign flag, I'm like, okay, if you can throw hands in America, why are you not throwing hands back there? So right? I've been saying that the whole time. I just don't think that's a good look. It isn't a good look. It doesn't rally people to your cause. It doesn't rally people to it. And ultimately, it's gonna do more harm than good. It just doesn't look good. Period. You've abandoned ship. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, you can jump out there and stuff. It's like, what do you stand up for? What do you stand up for? What are you actually standing up for? So just understand there's a lot of folks out there getting their wake-up call. It's going to be a good opportunity for them to see what's happening. It's going to be a good opportunity for them to see what's happening and to see what's occurring. A lot of folks are going to be shocked. And they're going to continue to be so because, and I told them before, by the way, they're just beginning. They're just beginning. This is just the start. I told all of y'all this last year. I was like, this is going to be the start of it. I'm not going to stop here. They're going to keep going. What they're finding out now is that this was the other shoe dropping. This was the other shoe dropping and the big celebration and elation that finally we're going to drain the swamp. And then you found out that the establishment sent you a candidate that you would never suspect was the agent of the swamp. The swamp sent its own candidate. They sent him. And now he's here to accomplish and finish off what they sent him here to do. Go ahead and galvanize all the dissenters and then break their spirits and let them know that the swamp is all. The swamp runs this thing. The swamp runs it. And you can go grab whoever in the world you want to, but if we elevate them, we got our hooks in them. We got our hooks in them. And we're going to present you with a candidate that you will sit up here and go back against the wall to promote. And he's in our pocket the whole time. His job was not to do everything. His job was to do one thing. Make the only real legitimate threat to our primacy go away. We don't care if it's the end of his political career. He's not running again anyway. I'll also predict to you all that this will not go away. The base is not going to let this go. This is going to continue to be a bone of contention. Trump's legitimacy really just got derailed, and it is not going to go away. As a matter of fact, he's going to make it very fashionable to oppose him. That's why he went on Truth Social. When he realizes that this hasn't gone away and that even noteworthy people are not afraid of running afoul of him, then he's going to start backtracking. Trump is perfectly fine playing the bully so long as he's got plenty of support to play it. He's not okay playing the bully when he realizes there's not much support. So that's why he's being real tacit. But there are entirely too many people speaking up at the same time. The only person really defending him is Ben Shapiro. What? Ben Shapiro's the only person trying to hang strong and say Epstein don't matter. And that doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Let me just go ahead and say a word here to the folks out there trying to keep up the Epstein, there is no Epstein files hoax. For all you folks trying to do that in particular, let me just go ahead and say this. There are folks like Candace Owens and others who say that the reason why why Jeffrey Epstein has been so protected is because he was a Mossad asset. That's not, conspiracy. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a fact. Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset. When the U.S. attorney down there in Florida wanted to arrest him, and he said that they told him, hands off Epstein, he's an intelligence asset. When the U.S. attorney down there in Florida wanted to go after him, he said that they told him, hands off Epstein, he's an intelligence asset. He's an intelligence asset. So that's it. You already let the damn cat out the bag. We already know, okay, it's not a rumor that he was working with the Mossad. Oh, yes, confirmed. Yeah, he was. Now, what exactly he was doing? Not sure. You all won't say what he was doing. You won't say what he was doing. But we know what we're seeing isn't right. We know that. Yeah, a lot of y'all are just now hearing this and all. You can look it up for yourselves. The U.S. attorney in Florida, because remember he got charged the first time, and then they made this crazy sweetheart deal that let him go. Jeffrey Epstein is like Bernard Madoff, and yes, there's points of commonality there. I get it; it's not lost on me. How many years did Bernard Madoff run that Ponzi scheme before they finally came and got him? Mark Markopoulos put together the whole file, gave it to the SEC, and they didn't move on it. Sound familiar? But yes, Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset. The U.S. attorney said that. This isn't WikiLeaks. This isn't anonymous putting some information out there. The U.S. attorney said that. They had arrested him before. They had charged him. They were going to send him to jail. And then he got a sweetheart deal and he was out of it. It was only years later that he finally had to go to prison for it. But that's because he was too damn loud. You've gotten too damn out of pocket. And when they locked him up, they got him. So he's not going to tell anybody else. And Ghislaine Maxwell is sitting there right now. Okay, let me be quiet because they got Jeff in his cell. Let me be quiet because if they want to get at you, they'll get at you in front of the whole damn world. You know too damn much. You know too damn much. And now it's a liability. Before now, knowing too much kept you alive. Ask Jeffrey if knowing too much kept him alive. If you think that's going to be your insurance policy, you better go take a look at Jeff. Now, yes, I'm aware that there's also a train of thought that says that Jeffrey Epstein isn't dead. What? Yeah, I know. There's a train of thought that says he isn't dead. There are folks who claim that there are photographs. Oh, look at this. That doesn't even look human. Yeah, I get it. I heard it. We've all heard that. Megyn Kelly has made some statements about that kind of thing. So yes, there is a train of thought that says that Jeffrey Epstein is not dead, that they faked his death because they need him to disappear. That he is too valuable of an asset and they can't have him getting up in front of a committee or a congressional committee or something and saying something. So he has effectively been put in the International Witness Protection Program. And that Jeffrey is this is just to put the squash on that whole investigation and to tie it up in a nice, neat little bow and to get it to just go away. But yes, there are people out there who say Epstein's not dead and that they faked his death so that he could disappear. I am not going to say I think that's likely. What I will say is I wouldn't put anything past these people. I wouldn't put nothing at all past these people. All I can say is that if they went to that extreme to do that, whatever he was doing must have been damned important. Whatever he was doing must have been damned important. Now, there are those who think that Jeffrey Epstein was working for the Israeli government. And if you want to know what Tucker Carlson and other folks are getting at, what they're saying is that the Israeli government was using Jeffrey Epstein. They gave him a bunch of money, and his job was to go around and get as much blackmail information on as many people in as many places in the U.S. government and in business and finance as he could. That his whole job, his whole mission, his entire purpose was to wring people into blackmail positions, to get incriminating photographs, incriminating footage, the whole nine yards. That was his job. He was in charge of that. So that he was the plug for all kinds of illicit things and that he was the lure, the honeypot, if you will, for politicians, business leaders and whatnot, that he was the guy they would go talk to get their dark, deviant desires. And then next thing you know, Jeffrey's like, by the way, smile, you on candid camera. And that was the real reason. And that's the reason why it's like, yeah, you can send him to court, but you don't really want him talking now, do you? So y'all better come up with some story. We don't give a damn what it is. You better come up with something, but you're going to let him go. Because we got the goods. And there's a line of thought that says that makes sense, people, because think about it for a few moments. Do you think that blackmail photos are going to keep Vladimir Putin from invading Ukraine? Damn! I mean, think about that for a few moments. Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin. Do you think blackmail photos are going to stop them from doing anything? I mean, what could he have on them that would exercise power over them? I don't think there's anything you could do or have that would exercise power over them. I think it would only work for people who would want to maintain their position in this society, that there's something that you've done that's criminal and that they'd have the ability to do something to you here. I don't believe they could do anything to Vladimir Putin, the Chinese, in the Middle East. I don't think that whatever they have, I don't think it's relevant over there. I think it would only be useful and relevant over here. And that there are people in this society that he has the goods on. So that's the reason why I'm like, okay, if you want to put together a scenario, that's the only one that would make sense. If you want to go down that train of thought, that's the only one that makes sense. He gave the Israeli government a treasure trove of incriminating evidence and information against American politicians, American business leaders, American media figures, and basically everybody gets the message. Y'all gonna support Israel. You gonna keep supporting Israel. You gonna toe the line. All of you, NATO is going to be Israel's best friend, and you gonna stay right there. You ain't gonna move. You're not gonna move. We got AIPAC on one hand, we got Jeffrey Epstein on the other. Y'all gonna mob for us. It doesn't matter how bad it looks, how tacky it looks, how terrible it looks, how many atrocities. Y'all gonna back us, period. And if you don't, we're gonna make what you did to Anthony Weiner, pause, look like a picnic. But every one of you in office, we got you. Anybody we can't legally remove, we got the blackmail. You gonna do what we said. You gonna do it. I don't pretend to you to have answers or solutions to anything. I don't pretend that one to you. My job is to report the news, and that is what I've done. Welcome to the United States of Epstein. Enjoy your stay. Not like you have a choice. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. I'd like to thank everyone who's contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out here to my man Black to Logic for Emotion. Thank you very much for your support tonight. We appreciate that. Willis Addison, JM, Amari, Elohim. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend, holidays, some days in between. Click that red subscribe button, click that notification bell. Join us each and every time that we're here. If you haven't been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work, blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I'd like to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is transparency.